Hi, and welcome to the Diamond Report for Monday, April 10th, 2017. This is your host, Doug Diamond. We've got us looking at Earthquake 3D, the last 48 hours worth of earthquakes globally. As you can see, we still have the swarm going on in and around the Philippines, and I mentioned this in the earthquake update yesterday that I did on the Diamond Report. That is still happening. The 5.9 is still the largest one in the last few days in this region. We now have some movement in the southern Indonesia and Sumatra area that we were waiting to see. It was really just a matter of time. And now we've had a 5.0 and a 3.6 or 3.7 over here near Sumatra. And then also a couple more quakes right along here that I mentioned we would see some movement. 2.4 in Myanmar and a 3.2 in this little corner of India, actually. And then there's also been a little bit more. There's a 3.8 here in India as well, and a 5.1 in Tajikistan. So we've seen movement all over this whole area now just since yesterday's Diamond Report, where I did a brief earthquake update. This whole region yesterday was silent, thousands of miles. Now we've seen quite a bit of movement, and it's silenced off over here. Now we have no deep quakes that have happened in the Fiji area, which we'd seen deep quake after deep quake in that area, and now it's gone silent. So again, we have another pretty large silent zone, but this area around Indonesia on up into India has now moved. So I just wanted to show you that. And then also, we mentioned South America yesterday, and that movement has essentially stayed the same. There's been no more movement. Now we're going to look at southern Peru, because we had northern Peru move, and the fulcrum point between the quakes down here in Chile and the one in northern Peru would be southern Peru. Now there is a volcano in that area, so it could be that we won't see a quake there, but my guess is we'll still see some movement there. That's all I had for today's earthquake report, and we'll move on to the headlines. Swing state election worker charged with illegally changing records to allow felons to vote. That's on Free Beacon. Former UK ambassador says Trump has just given jihadis 1,000 reasons to stage fake flag operations, false flag operations. That's from Information Liberation. Media hides dead after 44 plus killed in Egypt church bombings on Palm Sunday. That's also Information Liberation. Yeah, they're trying to cover up what's happening because they don't want the distraction of Christians being killed to take away from their war in the Middle East scenario. Cernovich says we are defending Trump by attacking the deep state. We have to attack the deep state because we're loyal to Trump, not because we're opposing him. That's why we attack and expose McMaster and his like. Not prepared. Will most Americans be absolutely blindsided by multiple wars and a simultaneous economic collapse? That's from Michael Snyder of The End of the American Dream. I think the answer to that is most definitely. Most people are still sound asleep, as far as I can tell. Swedish police pelted with rocks while arresting terror suspect in migrant no-go zone. That's on Zero Hedge. And another head-scratcher, Trump's pick for top economic advisor is pro-immigration and pro-outsourcing. That's from Breitbart. On the Daily Mail, Chechnya's Islamic regime begins sending homosexuals to concentration camps. Al Jazeera claims that Assad is now dropping white phosphorus bombs on Syria. That's on Zero Hedge. And another report, ISIS attacks U.S.-led coalition base in Syria. From Paul Joseph Watson, Russian politician calls for retaliatory strikes against the U.S. It's just a matter of time, really. Venezuelan socialists' election strategy is block adversaries. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? Rand Paul says stupidity of McCain and his ilk prevent a solution in Syria. I couldn't agree more. Drug smuggling tunnels skyrocketed after U.S. tightened border security. That's from the Daily Caller. Idaho, refugee boy admits to sexually assaulting a 5-year-old. From the Hill, battle over sanctuary cities escalating. Budget director to tell federal agencies to plan for major cuts. International Space Station expedition, 50 astronauts returning to Earth. That's on IB Times. I'm sure the flat earthers will love that story. ISIS in Iraq hangs civilian bodies from electrical poles in Mosul. On the Free Beacon, a report, veterans in crisis still left hanging by helpline. On RT.com, Beijing offers $73,000 reward for spies. Citizens can submit their reports via phone, mail, or even in person. That's pretty convenient, isn't it? I wonder how many takers they'll have. U.S. forces pouring into Syria as massive war looms. Sources say the ground war has already begun in Syria. Boy, the neocons waste no time, do they? Global recession more likely and coming soon, warns Saxo Bank. White House source says Trump pushes back against neocon plan to invade Syria. Let's hope that's true. Deep state military hijacks the White House to launch a war in Syria. That does seem to be what happened. Globalists holding high positions in the intelligence communities influence Trump. But Trump's the one that put him there in the first place. That's what doesn't make a lot of sense. So they're stacking the deck in the globalist favor. Must have been part of the situation for letting Trump live, at least thus far, and allowing him to be president. Shock GOP senator behind Obamacare looting scheme. Red Bull boss slams mass migration, forced multiculturalism in Europe. That's on Breitbart. Roger Stone says Goldman Sachs has no power in the Trump White House. Donald delivers on Glass-Steagall. Ohio ministers arrested on sex trafficking charges. That's from christiannews.net. Illegal caught drunk driving to be deported for the 4th time from valleycentral.com. Family of dead model claims extremists killed her because she wouldn't cover up. That's from thesun.co.uk. Snowden documents reveal scope of secrets exposed to China in 2001 spy plane incident. That's from The Intercept. Rice claim on Syria chemical weapons gets 4 Pinocchios. America already has single-payer health care, and it's terrible. The largest example of government-run health care in the U.S. should be a warning to all. Unusual Navy patrol sparks fear of foreign sub off California coast. Dems attack OWN for refusing to blame Assad for chemical attack. Google launches fake news fact check to search engine. Ratings vary from true to pants on fire. Insert your own joke here. Lindsey Graham says ISIS and Assad symbolize Germany and Japan. How about that? From a warmonger. Gun control group vows $25 million to fight concealed carry. Former New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg's Every Town for Gun Safety. That's on Politico. Australian wearing a cross was beaten by a Muslim gang shouting F Jesus. That's from Breitbart. Roger Stone says congressional whistleblower will end John McCain's career. The debt crisis of 2017. Once their vacation ends, Congress will have 4 days to avoid a government shutdown on April 29th. Personally, I don't think a government shutdown is really all that bad. That's from Michael Snyder of the Economic Collapse blog. French stocks and bonds stumble as communists' gains upset poll predictions. That's from Zero Hedge. Russian arrested in Spain over suspicion of U.S. election hacking. How about that? After Trump's Syria attack, Ron Paul asks, what comes next? From Zero Hedge, Putin will not meet Tillerson in Russia as confusion grows over U.S. policy toward Syria. You can say that again. The moment a screaming doctor was knocked out by cops and dragged off of an overbooked United flight after he refused to leave when he was picked to give up his seat. Trump ditches tax reform plan he campaigned on and considers series of new options, including payroll tax cut, in bid to woo Democrats. That's a bad sign. The kiss of death. Tourist posing for a photo with a deadly cobra in India doesn't even realize when the snake bites his face, and he dies an hour later. I'm guessing they mean the man, not the snake. Markets on the brink. 60% chance of global recession in 18 months, says an economist. I think that's probably optimistic. Assad must stay. A war involving fighters from 86 countries isn't a civil war. That's on Sputnik News. Liberals call for ouster of Democrat representative after she questions the Syria attacks. Ex-MI6 chief fears Trump will launch catastrophic war on North Korea, from RT.com. Buchanan on Syria. McCain, Graham, Rubio are not going to get the war they want. Well, let's hope not. That's on Breitbart. From SHTFplan.com. Preparing for the coming war, it's going to obliterate the global financial system. Our economy will not survive. So will that bring in the beast system? Target CEO blindsided by cost of conservative boycott over transgender bathrooms. That's on the Gateway Pundit. Egypt's al-Sisi orders military protection at all vital structures and churches following ISIS bombings. Israel closes southern border with Egypt after warning of imminent Passover terrorist attack from ISIS. North Korea to risk wrath of Donald Trump with nuclear launch within 15 days. That's from the Daily Star. Google's new fact-checker aims to stamp out fake news before it causes trouble. SputnikNews.com. From PrepperFortress.com. Chemical warfare, civil defense. What to do in a gas attack. Emergency preparedness. Dangerous farm pesticides are showing up in America's drinking water. That's on naturalnews.com. We are losing sight. Farage believes Assad will eradicate ISIS threat to the West. Bangladesh family says Vogue model killed for refusing to wear Islamic garments. That's on Breitbart. South Korean paper reports China has deployed 150,000 troops to North Korean border. That's on Zero Hedge. Revealed 14,000-year-old village older than Egyptian pyramids sheds light on how civilization began in North America. Yeah, it's clear that the history that we were all taught has been covered up and covered over as well. And we have not been told the truth of the history of humanity. United apologizes after cops knocked out screaming doctor and dragged him off overbooked flight to make room for the airline's own staff. In breaking news, at least 4 injured in murder-suicide shooting at San Bernardino Elementary School. North Korea says loudmouth Trump's reckless Syria bombings justify their nuclear program. From Zero Hedge. Rep. Adam Schiff's congressional career aided by Soros-financed groups. From Sputnik News. White helmets made up Syria gas attack story in campaign for no-fly zone. Beware the dogs of war. Is the American empire on the verge of collapse? That's from Rutherford.org. From antiwar.com, Trump's base revolts against Syria strike. Jack Blank governor, who could not vote for Trump for sexual comments, resigns for a sex scandal with a former aide. That's on the Gateway Pundit. North Korea attack imminent? Panic as Kim broadcasts coded messages to secret agents. That's on the Daily Star. Trump picks neocon to head Council of Economic Advisors. That's from thenewamerican.com. Yeah, more neocons being added to the Trump administration all the time. I think Trump is definitely being blackmailed or influenced in some way so as to pick these people over and over again. Sweden's police chief calls for Islamic extremists to be deported after attack by failed asylum seeker, then is warned that he faces investigation. From Dave Hodges, increasing the long odds of surviving a nuclear war. Yeah, after hearing Steve Quayle talk about this book in an interview the other day, I bought this book off of Amazon, Nuclear War Survival Skills by Crescent Carney. Russia threatens their own agent. InfoWars live coverage of Russian response to U.S. missile strike. A British ambassador says jihadists have 1,000 reasons to stage false flag. From Alex Jones, exclusive, massive U.S. invasion of Syria has already begun. This is an important update. I recommend that everybody watch this. U.S. aircraft carrier may cause Pyongyang's hasty responses, says a Russian official. $10,000 gold and $500 silver, and a world in great danger. From the Daily Mail, prepare for real war. Russian army chiefs threaten to retaliate against Trump if he crosses their red line again, as Putin's diplomats in London sound an ominous warning of escalating conflict. Russia to carry out observation flights over the U.S. and Canada. Head of Russia's National Nuclear Risk Reduction Center, Sergei Ryskov, says that Russian experts will carry out an observation flight over the United States and over Canada. That's from SputnikNews.com. Syria says it will rain Scud missiles on Israel if airstrikes don't stop. Then Steve says, here comes the burden of Damascus and Isaiah 17. That's from TheDrive.com. CERN bombshell, occult connection undoubtedly proved, and what is Trump doing? That's on ChristianTruther.com. For more on CERN, definitely go and visit AnthonyPatch.com. He's one of the world's leading authorities on CERN, in my opinion. Georgia police say anti-sex trafficking lawyer's murder was targeted killing. I think that's obvious when you look at the case. NorthwestLibertyNews.com. How humans will lose control of artificial intelligence and give life to the image of the beast. That's on SkywatchTV.com. From the Daily Mail, heartbroken Egyptian families weep over the coffins of their loved ones after Palm Sunday massacre kills nearly 50 Coptic Christians in 2 ISIS suicide bomb attacks. Steve says, pray for our Egyptian brothers and sisters. Yeah, absolutely. So sad what happened. Trump orders his generals, give me options for taking out Kim's nukes, and tells military to prepare to remove the North Korean threat. Bill Holter and Jim Sinclair's discussion from April 8th. If you take nothing else from this recording, please understand that our world can now completely change at any moment and with no notice whatsoever. Mixed signals for China, India, from Russia's S-400 in Syria. All types of air defense systems, including the S-400, are still in large part untested as to whether they can resist multiple missile attacks. That's on ATimes.com. Trump supporters go after Jared Kushner. Americans didn't vote to put Hillary in the White House. When between a rock and a hard place, move the darn rock, from All News Pipeline. Nasty, brutish, and short. What the next Korean War will look like. New York City's high-end restaurants are disappearing. The higher-end restaurant scene is now experiencing what some national dining chains have been going through for the past year or so, closing the kitchen. That's on the NewYorkPost.com. Do you suppose that's because of artificially high prices or harder to get the products that they serve, or possibly a lack of patrons, or maybe all the above? From All News Pipeline, does President Trump remember Russia warned if a war broke out, they'd bring the war to U.S. soil? When World War III goes hot, these maps show us where we don't want to be in America. Engineers say the next California quake could liquefy 235-foot high dam and unleash 29 billion gallons of water onto Silicon Valley. That's from Natural News. Fears grow over a mystery Russian compound in Nicaragua. Steve says the U.S. is being encircled, while all the globalists want Middle East war with Russia. Remember the bankers' creed, they make more in a day of war than in a year of peace. Disney files patent for soft, giant humanoid robots to play with your kids. That's on ChristianTruther.com. An unhinged McCain calls for more war in Syria and says Russia is guilty of war crimes. No, I think John McCain and the neocons are guilty of more war crimes. Stocks slide on report China has deployed 150,000 troops to North Korea border. It's from Zero Hedge. Rick Wiles leaves the GOP in protest of deep state coup. Quote, I'm finished playing games with the Republican Party elite. President Trump has no intention of draining the swamp. In fact, he is now swimming with cunning crocodiles, said the Vero Beach pastor. It's on TrueNews.com. From InfoWars, Donald Trump is an international lawbreaker. Donald Trump authorized an unjustified attack on a sovereign country. That he did. A video from Paul Joseph Watson. I was right about Sweden. Mass immigration and multiculturalism don't work. H.R. McMaster says mass murder weapons are the new WMDs. McMaster changes terminology in attempt to deceive the American public. All right, that's it for today's Diamond Report. Thanks for listening and watching. If you would, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel for further updates, and I'll see you tomorrow.